Okay, so now that that has been covered, yeah, and very short video for the Ewoks, we are now moving on to the very next thing in the order of Star Wars, which is now currently, I would say, my favorite thing. Like I said, Rebels is right there. I still love Star Wars Rebels. As I've been thinking about it, Star Wars Rebels is probably now my 2.5 to my favorite Star Wars, which is 2. Or 1.5, you know what I mean. Whatever. Basically, Rebels is one of my top things. It's in my top 3. Or top 5. Well, we are now going to what is currently my favorite thing out of Star Wars that I've seen. Yeah, Rebels is actually going to be my 2. I'm going to say Rebels is my 2 or 1.5. Yeah, because going back, I keep thinking of Rebels, and it's just awesome. But later was one of my favorite movies for a while, or my favorite Star Wars thing. Technically, this is still probably my favorite movie coming. So, but out of Star Wars things, this is my favorite current Star Wars thing, and this is the Mandalorian. But first and foremost, I think it's time that this gets put away. I have the Ewoks. They've left my force field of force wowness. Basically, it took all that time to kind of get that holiday special off my soul, and it's time for a change. Get ready, because the new look is technically, yeah, would be my favorite movie of Star Wars. Get ready. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh boy. Check out the hat. Check out the shirt. Yes, to me it's my favorite movie of all of the movies. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about my favorite thing out of all of Star Wars of current lore, period. Thus far. Rebels is right behind it, and this is right there with it. So it's like we're talking 2 and 2.1. Something like that. And yes, I don't care. You can say, oh no, it's not as good as the original. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Because this was able to bridge the gap between the old, the new, and everyone. And whether you like it, there's a reason why $1 billion. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We're actually here to talk about my favorite thing, the best thing that I say, honestly, top tier came out of Star Wars, because for a while it was Rebels. This is my current, but I will talk about it when, each one has been my favorite at different times. The Mandalorian. Ah, yes. Mando. So, I love the fact that it opens with the criminal underground. That underground that kind of was touched upon a little bit in Solo. I want more of this underground. Like, I'm so intrigued by it, and I love the fact that you actually get to see it. Pedro Pascal, he was just quiet. He was great. He added so much gravity to this character, sometimes without even saying a word, and just his emotions. Like, it was to the point I didn't even look at him and go, that's Pedro Pascal. Like, that's how good it was. He adds so much to it. And I love the whole thing to collect his first bounty and what he did. At first, I thought that was awesome. When he goes into the thing, by the way, there's spoilers and all these if you haven't been following. But like, he pulls the dude through the door, he closes the door, but he like kind of goes through them and starts tearing them up to show that he's a beast. He's not a guy to be trifled with. And I think that is freaking awesome. And I like how they showed the whole carbonite thing. Now it's a kind of a Mandalorian thing. It's like, hey, it worked this. It makes it easier. Less trouble. Someone you ain't got to watch. And he had like a whole closet of them. I like the setup for the IG-11. It showed why. This was another one because the IG-11 also showed up in, if I remember correctly, I think it was droids. Yeah, it was droids. I think you've seen one in Clone Wars. My brain has just Star Wars clummering in, but I think it was droids you saw one. But they always one of the stories, IG-11 was a villain, but this shows you why. It shows it's dangerous. Like I said, I know a couple of stories. IG has been like a villain of the old ones. They're very straightforward. It's great how you see him move. Like he can shoot here, but this spins there. Like that's an efficient droid. That's an efficient robot that can just move in awkward ways and blast from different angles and see all around them and stuff. There's advantages that you would have to being a droid, and I thought that was fantastic. I enjoyed the story flow. So the flow of it is how it does. It doesn't depend solely on references throughout the entire thing. They do have a reference episode. And I know some people are like, oh, why are they doing that? I think IGN said something about it, but the reason being is that's what Star Wars is built on. Star Wars is built on itself. It references itself. It's not throughout the entire series. It's just a particular episode. And little things here and there, as it should be. Every other Star Wars thing afterwards always referenced the previous Star Wars trilogy. Anyway, once again, I just wanted to point out, I really love the wink, wink, nudge, nudge for the Carbonite. And of course, and I want one, I enjoyed Baby Yoda. That was just awesome. And Enter the Jawa. Reason why I say Enter the Jawa, okay, Jawas annoy me. I like their look, but they annoy me. Like, there's characters, I'm looking at people like, I would just take them all out. You steal my stuff, I'm just going to take as many of you out as I can. But, that's the Jawas there, those annoying things. Little sniveling thieves. I always want to punch a Jawa in the face. Now, I did like how this show kind of flowed, where it was like, especially episode 2, I felt like it was a video game side quest situation. It was a nice build. I also love when he's just like, oh, you want this? How about this? I just love he uses his flame thing. Like, I love his rage, like his poise, his attitude, his rage. But like everything he does, it's to the max, and it was fantastic. But it's not over the top. And I also remember he was climbing on the side of the thing. I'm like, I've seen this before. That doesn't work out well, and it didn't. Falls, whatever. And he has a Baby Yoda with him. I thought that was great. And it was also funny when he was doing the mission on the mission, and he got the dudes to sit there, I have spoken. But besides that, I also like the dirty stormtroopers. I think that's well done. I know I've mentioned this a couple times, I love when I see these grittier, dirtier stormtroopers. Like, they're not as pristine. It kind of gives you, their look gives you a message to what they are and what they do. And I think that's something that's pretty cool. Now, I do want to point out something, and I got it here. How quickly throughout these Star Wars does the Force get forgotten? With like all the history, like you literally had Vader, who was known as this, pretty much a space wizard who could choke people. Like people experienced Vader's power. Throughout years, you had the Jedi Order, but if you think about it, it's only been like 70 years, possibly, or roughly 40, if you go from Star Wars. But I'm talking about if you go all the way back to Clone, it's been like, Vader was a young man when he became Vader. He was like in his 20s. And as the stories have progressed, he's been Vader for a while. His son Luke has grown up. So Vader was probably in his, like, if Luke was in, let's say by the time they have Return of the Jedi, let's say Luke was in his mid-20s. Vader is probably in his mid-40s. And then you got the stuff that goes through. Like, this isn't too far from what happened at the fall of the Empire. This was probably only a couple years later. But you know of Vader. You've heard, like, people have heard of Luke. And later stories, before this show came out, it's even referenced. Like, Luke is the legend. Luke is known. And, have powers and stuff. But, all these wars and everything, it's like people just randomly forget. And it's like, well, he's that prominent, he's that strong, like, it's not like 1,000 generations, you know what I mean? Not a complaint, it's just something that's all throughout Star Wars. Like, even the original Star Wars, they had the Jedi Order and everything, and then they're like, not super many years later, they're like, that was a myth. Like, wait, what? That's your history, that's how do you think the Empire got into power? But, that's just a thing. So, it's a Star Wars trope. I do love the whole thing when he turned in the package and they did the code, but then he had a crisis of conscience. But they did the Vader thing, the way Vader did it when he did it with his son and Emperor, his son and the Emperor. I like that because it kind of had a moment where it didn't have to be spoken with words. And I like how that went. And I like you also see the fact that with this, it shows a contrast that he's not cold-blooded. He's vicious when he needs to be. He does what he needs to be, but he's not malicious. He's not cold-blooded. He has a heart. You see the Mandalorians. I thought that was cool. They were very large and in charge compared to him. And with these guys just walking up, like the jocks, it brought him down and made him feel even more relatable. He's the guy that can go in there and do his thing. He was good because he knows what he works with. He's not the strongest, he's not there, but he doesn't need to be. He's just good. And it made him feel relatable when you see how the other Mandalorians treated him. And I did like also in the series, it showed that even though, and this is not always easy to do, because sometimes you'll go one extreme or the other just because you love the character. It shows that he can be overwhelmed. He is very good. He's a BA, but he's not a Terminator. He doesn't just walk in and just tears up everything all the time. He can take out a lot of people, and he can fight really well. He's really, really good. But he still has things that can overwhelm him. And I do also like the fact that he kind of went into the belief of the Mandalorian and kind of followed them like his religion. I thought that was awesome. Also, I love the fact that you see Baby Yoda helps when he needed a bot when he got overwhelmed by the Space Rhino. And I thought it was really cool that he doesn't just step all in. He is a do guy, get the job done for that green. So what I mean is, I like the fact that he. In D&D, I played this guy named Draugr. And inside of the D&D campaign, he was kind of like that. Actually, one day, if we ever do a side thing or if we start up a different campaign, after this campaign comes to an end, I actually might replay that character. He was a bounty hunter himself. It was a whole Order of Mass thing. It's something I made up for D&D that we're even using in this current campaign. Anyway, the big thing about him was he did have a consciousness when it came to like children. He was like cognitive of it, and he had a consciousness for it. But he still was about getting the job done. He was very good at what he did. He was a dwarf. And he actually, even though it was an axe, it was a special type of axe that actually was a reaper. Because the order that he's from is about oblivion and death being the true purpose of all living things and stuff. But he wasn't evil. And he had this thing where it was like long, and he was a master of it. And he would just reap. And it was just really cool. Actually, an awesome character. We play tested him. I want to do more with him down the line. But anyway, that's what the Mandalorian reminds me of. He reminds me of my D&D character who is about the money and about the things. He was very honorable, but he was also very who he was. And he also respected his order. And I like that the Mandalorian did that too. I thought that was just cool. Pedro Pascal, like I said, very good body language. Enter any situation. His whole language of his body tells you a story, and that's not always easy to convey. You got to get the right actor for that. I love Cara Dune. Her intro where they got into the fight, I thought that was great. And the fact that she's her history is with the rebellion and everything, and now she's kind of a wandering merc, and he needed her. And I like he was willing to deal with whoever he needed to deal with. I like with the lower squad, the AT-ST, when they went on this planet. So they were on this planet that was getting attacked by these like marauder things. Kind of reminded me of the Ewoks with the higher guys going after the lower. And they were dangerous, and you saw like the mom, and you saw the stuff, and I thought that was freaking great. And I also love when they explored it, and they seen it, and they saw it was the AT-ST. They were like, nope, ain't doing it. That was great. I also like the fact that because he believed in his code and he believed this woman and everything, he had this woman who was amazing, who was a mother, who kind of fell for him because he was a really good man. Like, he's a really good man, but he couldn't abandon his code because he's like, I don't take off the helmet in front of anyone. And if he did, that would be him like putting it down. And I thought that was really powerful. Also, too, I like how he explained the helmet and an episode to show who he is and what he's about. The balance is very nice. There was for the low energy episodes where there was very heavy character development. Like I love that when an episode wasn't as action packed, even though it had action, every episode did. It focused on who these people were and how he interacts with other people to get to know him, especially when you see his past and why he believes in the Mandalorians and why he hates droids. And I thought it was so cool that the Empire wants the Baby Yoda thing, and he's like, okay, they're tracking him somehow. We're not dealing with this kind of thing. Funny enough, the series also, I want to point this out too. The series reminds me of Firefly. It's a hero who's rough around the edges, but has a code of honor, yet they will follow the good when it's the good. Like, it reminded me of how, wow, his name just escaped me. Nathan Fillion's character, escaped me, wanted to protect River, even though they could have solved all their problems with throwing away. Giving her away, they didn't. And I thought that was cool. And as a matter of fact, because you may not believe me, I'm going to show you something. So hold on, just so you know, I ain't joking around about some Firefly. Wait. All right. So, like I said, so you see I ain't playing. And it's Malcolm Reynolds. It came back to me while I was looking for these. So, I got this as a series when they came out with the new one with the 4-disc special edition. Because one day I will recover these. Then I bought this one when it first came out back in the day. Used, but, I got it when I got it. I was younger, money. Then they came out with the collector's edition. I bought that too. Okay? So you see, and I'm probably going to get it on Blu-ray too. Just saying. Firefly is one of the most underrated freaking sci-fi shows ever. I wish they could do another movie or something. This was a good closer. But, at least they got the ending. And I freaking loved it. I would love to explore that universe some more. Even if some of the actors wanted to shift it to new characters, but let Josh Whedon run his thing, I think it'd be awesome. Anyway, back to the thing. Like I was saying, the code reminds me of Malcolm Reynolds to River. Like, he's like, I'm not just going to do this just to do it. It's not always about the easy decisions. It's about the right decisions. But I do love that with the right and wrong. Like I said, great, interesting balance on the personalities themselves. Nobody felt like they were too talking down versus the others. I thought that was great. The great shooting effects, they're at movie level. I love the battles. They were awesome. Every battle was great. Space battle, ground battle, when he almost got overwhelmed and he looked at the Yoda. And it's almost like he's looking at him kind of like starting to become a son. And it's funny because that beautiful little cute Yoda, oh my God. I'm like, why is it so adorable? It's like, yeah, it's like you can see there's a connection. And it's like you don't know. It's got Baby Yoda. I have spoken. This is the way. These are the things that are being quotables right now because this series is that good. Baby Yoda is the thing you're talking about. Even though Rise, and look, you're going to hear my thing about Rise when that comes up. But these are the things that are quoted because this is hands down just good Star Wars. Great Star Wars. Amazing Star Wars. But you go, I have spoken. It just worked. Baby Yoda, and that's the way. And I love it because that's kind of like a mantra they have, and I just think that's great. Definitely would love to see more Underworld all the way. I also love that his sadness with the droid after hating them, it showed growth. When he was sitting there and he had the whole situation happen, and he's like, I'm not gonna take off my helmet. I can't take it off in front of someone like a person. But that also meant he started to view the droid. He was there enough times that he started to view the droid as a person. And he was like, I'm not alive. And then it did the healing thing, which I thought was great. And you could see him as the time progressed. He was getting better and better. I also felt it so sad that his friend, who he wanted so much, that he actually wanted his friend to join him because he just cared about that guy. And then you see him try to save Baby Yoda and he dies. And it was really sad. Especially when he kept calling him. But it wasn't just desperation. You could hear he was like worried about his friend. Such good stuff. Such good storytelling, man. and just how they put everything together and how they're like kind of going in and out like a Western. Moff Gideon, he was cold, calculated, intense. The last 3 episodes, he really pulls no punches. I also love when you see him deal with another bounty hunter. Like, some people complained. I actually thought the Ming-Na Wen, first off, she's amazing. Put her in anything, I will love her to death. She's just phenomenal and just wonderful, beautiful, caring. Mulan, people. And she played her part very well. And I like the guy who died in one episode. I felt as though it was the Mandalorian still dealing with a situation and starting to kind of come, like, he tried to be helpful, and he's like, maybe I can't trust people the way I thought. Like, I thought that was really cool. Jason Sudeikis as a stormtrooper. I don't know who the other guy was. And also angry when they got angry at Baby Yoda. I did chuckle with a little bit of confusion. I heard the voice. I'm like, that's Jason Sudeikis. I love Jason Sudeikis. He's funny. And I love the fact that they were like, what it said, this dude kills. And the guy's like, oh, he's cute. And Baby Yoda bit him. So he started like hitting Baby Yoda like, no. I'm like, yo, you're hitting the freaking baby. And he's like, see? You wanted to see him, and now look what happens. Because they had no idea what he was. And he's like, yeah, look at that. And he's like, well, we're going to kill. And you hear the dude just kill it, like just bang, bang on people. He's like, nah, we're going to stay here. We're going to wait. This guy keeps taking us out. And it was great that they made that joke. That was an episode, I think, done by Taika Waititi. But the comedy fit because, yeah, not enough people talk about how villains in Star Wars just seem to just kill their subordinates on a regular basis. I also, one of my favorite episodes, by the way, that was actually ended up being, and I thought the directing was great, was shot by Bryce Dallas Howard. I freaking love that girl, like, to death. There's a lot of, like, I love Bryce Dallas Howard. Look, one day I'm gonna actually start a section called like movie night or something where I do my movie reviews, especially right now with the drought of everything. Yeah, I can't wait to do some M. Night Shyamalan movies. I don't even know if I have all of them. I know I have a couple. Because there's a couple I'm like, oh, Lord. But there's one in particular you guys are going to be like, no way. There's no way that he could have possibly liked that movie. And I actually did. And I wasn't the only person that was around. So, get to that. Future stuff. Anyway, back on task. I like Greef Karga, how he looked and just how he did. I mean, Action Jackson forever. Anybody in my age bracket in their 30s that loved action movies, am I right? Action Jackson, man. I know most of you know him from Predator, but I know him from Predator 2, but Carl Weathers to me will always be Action Jackson. Wish I could have got more of that too. But I did like his whole business and his like man mentality. How he had an honor, so he was an antagonist, but he wasn't a bad guy, and I thought that was really, really cool how they did that. Like, he wasn't a bad guy. He did his thing. He was, a businessman. But back to Moff Gideon. When I seen the thing with the black lightsaber, that was awesome. Went all the way back to freaking, when I seen it in Rebels and stuff. I've heard about the black lightsaber, but I didn't see it. And I don't know if they're ever going to do the expanded universe with the guys, I think they were the Void Sabers, I think they were called. With the sabers that were like, they were dark, but they were all black. Like the black saber has a white thing to it. They're still like light, but it's very unique in its own thing. It's a Mandalorian saber. They always make the best weapons half the time, or most of the time. But the void sabers were actually, when the lightsabers would fight them, it would start absorbing the light from there. It was like a black hole. So I wonder if they're ever going to introduce that. But this also is starting to dip into the Mandalorian's deep lore. Now I'm sitting there, when I see that at the end, it's a big surprise. I'm like, how did he get it? What does it mean? And then I'm just like, oh, yeah, Clone Wars and Rebels coming back into play. So I was really into that. Once again, like I said, there was no over references, but episode 5 in particular was nice because it did. It was a callback to Boba. They went back to Tatooine, went to the same cantina, showed that Tatooine still sucks. I just wanted to be clear, as the references are made, they handled it very well, where it was like enough to go, here's your reference-centric episode. All Star Wars does those references, but I like that they kind of contained it to that, and they said, okay, now we can push on with the story. But it's always nice to go back, especially when I found out later that they shot the stuff in the actual desert location or the area location that they shot Luke's house, and the same place that they put Anakin's house, which is where Luke was. So it's like a hark back to that same place. I thought that was great. I thought the mechanic lady was great. The speed droids, they were repurposed now to be mechanics. I thought that was a cool, nice touch. What, hark back to the prequels. Yeah, like I said, Ming-Na Wen, her time was short. She'll always have my love because she always commands a scene when she's in it. She's always, like, pretty much she's like a fine wine. As she has aged, I watched her from younger when she was like Chun-Li and other stuff to now, and she's just aged so wonderfully, so gracefully. Her skills in acting now were already phenomenal. It's just like right there. And she commanded it on the spot. Fennec Shan, that worked very well. I thought that was a cool character. She had the sniper, the high ground. You got to see that the Mandalorian is a thinker. He doesn't just go in blind scope and does things. He exposed himself because he knows he had the armor to do it. And what was cool was he was like, look, this is how you deal with a sniper and the strategy and the whole night thing, and you blind them. And I thought that was just great. So now, moving on to season 2, I'm hearing that we're going to have Katee Sackhoff, who is another... There are some people who are just loving the geek community. She's another one who I love. I follow her YouTube. You should definitely follow it. She talks about, like, how she gets prepared for roles, and you just get a really nice insight on her and the work that she puts in, the build, even like when she talked about like how she did Longmire, because everyone was talking about her, gluteus, and how she rocked the jeans, and she had like a little bit of a thickness to her, but she was the same weight, but she explains how she got that, like that wasn't just a thing, like she actually put the work in. Yeah, she did look very good in Longmire, thicker, but that's not the point. But then when she was like at her buffest, which was in a Riddick movie, but then she was also Starbuck and how she was there. And she goes through a lot of different things, like stuff she does, life, diet, how she eats versus her regular time. It's a great YouTube channel. Anyway, Katee Sackhoff, show me some love, because I just gave you a plug. She ain't watching this. But she might come back as Katan Kryze from Clone Wars, The Death Watch, and she was in Rebels too, as a rumor. I think that's great. Tamora Morrison may come back. The guy who played Jango Fett may come back as an older Boba Fett, which I think is a great idea. I don't know what happened to the original Boba Fett actor, actually. But this guy is great because they're supposed to be clones, and Boba is supposed to be a clone of him. So because of the story, it would fit really well to see him, and he would look like his father. I hope that happens. I think that's cool. Sasha Banks is coming for something in there. She's one of my favorite female wrestlers ever. I freaking love Sasha Banks. So I think it's great that they're doing that. She's a geek. She's all about that. She's athletic. She's a tiny one. Has a great build for like Star Wars. Like, she's in the shape to do it. And I think it would be something really, really cool to see her in there. Then Timothy Oliphant, he's coming in from Justified, Santa Clarita Diet. I also loved him in Hitman. I know he phoned it in, but that man's phoning in is better than some of the actors I see today trying their best. And I always just love watching him, and just he's shown a lot of range, but just who he is. Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, I think that's a great pick. She's awesome when it comes to acting and putting things together. It would fit too with Ahsoka is aging and stuff. Rosario, perfect fit, great thing, got a good voice. Her look with that, the way of course her face is, would actually really fit Ahsoka. She's always about the geek, like she goes in 100%. I know she has the accusations. Nix that. They're called accusations for a reason. The Twitterati and Twitter is not a court of law. It's just accusations. Stop flipping out. She's Ahsoka. I'm down with that. I want to see more Ahsoka. And if they decide to give Ahsoka her own show, I'm watching the mess out of it. Now, this brings me to a thing that it seems like they're grabbing a lot of stuff from the cartoons and bringing it in. And admittedly, I have to say, some of the best current Star Wars stuff comes from the cartoons. So why wouldn't they take it? I think they should. I think this is a great route. Now, some people are like, oh, it's just going to be overtaken and he's going to be a backseat to his own series. Well, let's say that there's another 8 to 10 episodes, right? Well, if you have, like, let's say Boba has to deal with a situation, he's there for 2 episodes, then they go to the Mandalorian thing, but he's dealing with the planet, maybe he's on Mandalore. And that's where they go, and then they're dealing with it with the saber. That's what explains why these characters will be here, and it will be his interactions with these legendary Mandalorians. So a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be overtaken. It's going to be. I'm like, you got to think a little beyond your face. If he goes to Mandalore, they should be there, and they should be there because she is the leader of Mandalorians from when they left off in Rebels, and that's her saber. Maybe she's going after him to get her saber back, because that's her lightsaber, and maybe it's going to be a war between them and the Mandalorians. That could be something really cool to see. And Ahsoka might end up being a part of it, because remember, she's a friend with one of the clones, with Rex, and Rex may have just said, you know what, screw it, and then he might have went to Mandalore. So there's a way they can make all this work and make the story about that with the Baby Yoda, and maybe Ahsoka will be the one that will train Baby Yoda. So that's what I think. I could see it working well. I mean, yeah, of course they could take it and go over the top. But the way I see it, if they go to Mandalore, they deal with the stuff on Mandalore, seeing Boba actually do something. I don't care. I know you all love Boba. He did nothing. Accept it. He did nothing. He just looked cool and sounded cool. Did a couple things here and there, but he did nothing really. I want Boba to go off, okay? I want a war to happen, and I want the Mandalorian and Boba walk up, talk about something. Nah, I'm the Mandalorian, and just start tearing it up. I think that would be so cool. Boba fans would freaking lose their minds. I would lose my mind. Finally, we see Boba ripping things apart. I want to see Boba go in. No, as a matter of fact, you know what? I want to see Boba even pull out a lightsaber, talk about this is how I do. I want to see Boba go off and talk about it and be like that ancient, Mandalorian and explain what it's about, That's what I would like to see. And I would like to see her and do this. And I like to see Ahsoka just do anything. So, this is my final thoughts. This is currently my favorite thing from Star Wars. Like I said, right there, right before Rebels and Force Awakens, this is like my favorite one of Star Wars. In my top 5, this is my number 1. I love it. Feels like a Western. It has that flair. It has that music. It has that thing. So, next up, it's actually going to be not what you think. Because in the timeline, there is Star Wars Resistance Rises. That actually happens before Force Awakens. So until next time, I'm going to change this hat because this hat is new. See, it's not even curved, and it actually is on my brain like this. So, yeah. But I think I'm going to change my look for this just because it'll be fun. This is the Geek Protagonist. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay real. Thank you for sticking with me, and Star Wars month is almost done. This stuff is going to be getting plowed out. There's like 10 things, so expect a lot of Star Wars throughout. And I'll see you. Hey, thank you for visiting my channel. This is the Geek Protagonist. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please, it'll really help me out in the channel if you actually share these videos, if you like what I'm doing. Please hit that bell notification. Hit it, click. This way you won't miss any of my videos. Also, there's a thing on there that says personal and all. Hit the all. This way you'll get them every time for the notifications. I'm trying to, grow, trying to do commentary about what's going on. And I want to thank you again. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay real. This is the Geek Protagonist. I'm out, and I'll see you.